Chosen one, listen carefully. A month ago, you told them exactly what was coming. Not as a threat, not as a guess, not as some vague bad feeling you couldn't explain. You laid it out plainly, calmly, in a way anyone paying attention could have followed. You gave them the chance to see it before it landed. That chance is exactly what they threw away with a laugh. And what did they do with it? They laughed in your face. They called you dumb for even bringing it up. Dramatic, paranoid, somebody who needed the attention. One of them looked you dead in the eye and said you were the dumbest person in the room for worrying about something that would never happen. That's the word they reached for, dumb, not cautious, not observant, dumb. And tonight, while they're standing in the wreckage of the exact thing you warned them about, that word is echoing back at them, louder than anything they could have imagined. You didn't come at them loud. You never needed to. And that's exactly the part they underestimated most. You saw a pattern forming, you named it out loud, gently, more than once, and you gave them every chance to check it before it happened. They didn't check it. They mocked the warning instead of testing it. They made a joke out of your instinct instead of asking where it came from. And now the thing you tried to stop has already happened, and there's no version of this where they get to pretend they never heard you say it. Here's what nobody talks about. Being right isn't the satisfying part. The satisfying part isn't even close to what people think it is. The real weight of this moment isn't "I told you so." It's watching people who mocked your clarity scramble to explain how they missed something you saw from a mile away. It's watching the same mouths that called you dramatic go quiet the second the first piece of it collapsed. It's watching people who once rolled their eyes at your warning suddenly reread every message you sent, searching for the parts they skipped past too fast to take seriously. You weren't guessing. You weren't being negative for the sake of it. You were reading signals they refused to look at, because looking at them would have meant admitting something uncomfortable was already in motion. It's always easier to laugh at the person naming the problem than to sit with the problem itself. So they laughed. And now they're not laughing. Now they're checking their phones for the exact date you said it, hoping you don't have the screenshots. You do. Before we go further, if this is already hitting close to home, tap like and subscribe. Not for me. For the version of you that stayed calm while everyone called you crazy. That's what this channel is built on, chosen one, paying attention to the people who saw clearly when it was easier not to. Let's keep going, because the story isn't just about being right. It's about what happens to the people who mocked you now that the truth caught up with them. Here's the part that stings for them the most. It wasn't a stranger who saw this coming. It was you. Someone they knew. Someone they sat across from and dismissed to their face. If a random voice online had predicted this, they could shrug it off as coincidence. But it wasn't random. It was someone in the room, someone at the table, someone they had the chance to actually listen to, and they chose the laugh instead of the pause. That's not something you can blame on bad luck. That's a choice. And choices like that don't disappear. They sit there, quietly, waiting for the moment the consequences show up and force everyone to remember exactly who called it and exactly who called that person dumb for saying it out loud. And here's the honest part, chosen one. The part most videos like this skip over. None of this means everyone around you is secretly plotting against you. And it doesn't mean you should start treating every disagreement like a conspiracy. That's not what this is. This is simpler than that. Some people just find it easier to laugh at a warning than to sit with the discomfort of maybe being wrong. That's a very human flaw, not a grand scheme. You don't need to build a wall around yourself to protect the part of you that saw this coming. You just need to trust it a little louder next time and let the people who mocked you sit with the outcome of their own choices. Chosen one, if you're ready to see exactly how this unfolds, step by step, drop a 77 in the comments right now. Let me know you're still here, still paying attention, still the one who sees it before anyone else does. And if this message is worth something to you, the super thanks button is right there. Every bit of it keeps this mission going. Now let's break this down properly, from the beginning. Because what happened to you over the last month deserves to be said clearly and completely. Not rushed through, not summarized in a single sentence, but actually walked through piece by piece, so you can see exactly how a single dismissed warning turned into everything that's happening around you right now. Number 1. The warning they laughed at is the same warning they're now repeating word for word. Go back to that conversation, replay it in your head. You weren't yelling, you weren't dramatic. You sat there and calmly told them something didn't feel right, that a pattern was forming, that if nobody adjusted course, this was going to end badly. And they laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a polite laugh, a real one, the kind that comes from someone who thinks they've got it all figured out, and you're the one who's lost the plot. They called you dumb. They said you worried too much, that you were seeing problems where none existed, that you needed to relax and stop overthinking everything. You let it go. You didn't fight for the point. You just quietly hoped you were wrong. You weren't wrong. And here's the part that should sit with you for a second. Right now, somewhere, one of them is repeating your exact warning to someone else, word for word, like it's their own realization. I should have seen this coming. Something felt off for weeks. I don't know why nobody said anything. Somebody did say something. You did. Out loud, calmly, more than once. They just weren't ready to hear it from you, because hearing it from you would have meant admitting you were paying closer attention than they were. This is the part that separates people like you from people like them. You don't need the disaster to happen to notice the signs. You notice the signs while everyone else is still enjoying the comfort of not looking too closely. That's not luck. That's not paranoia. That's pattern recognition, built from paying attention when nobody asked you to. And the price of that kind of attention is always the same. People mock you for it, right up until the moment they need it. Then suddenly your overreacting becomes their new personality. Suddenly the thing they laughed at becomes the thing they wish they'd written down. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to remind them. The timeline already did that for you. Every message, every date, every "you're being dramatic" is sitting there, untouched, waiting to be read again in a completely different light. And it will be. Because when people finally understand what actually happened, the first thing they do is trace it back to the moment it could have been stopped. That moment has your name on it. None of this makes you psychic, and it doesn't mean you're wired differently from everyone else in some mystical way. What it means is much simpler and honestly more useful. You were paying attention to the actual details instead of the mood in the room, and that's a skill, not a gift. Skills like that can feel lonely to carry, because most people would rather enjoy the calm than question it. But it's exactly why your read on things is worth trusting the next time it shows up, even quietly, even before anyone asks for it. Number 2, why they needed to mock you before they could ever believe you. This one matters more than it looks like on the surface, because it explains almost every reaction that followed. It's tempting to think they mocked you because they genuinely believed you were wrong. Sit with that for a moment, and you'll notice it doesn't quite add up. People who are simply, calmly convinced someone is mistaken don't usually reach for mockery. They reach for questions, or shrugs, or mild disagreement. Mockery is a specific tool, and it's almost always used to shut a conversation down fast, before it has the chance to go anywhere uncomfortable. Here's something worth understanding about people who laugh at warnings instead of checking them. It was never really about you being wrong. It was about what your warning would have required from them. If they took you seriously, they would have had to stop, reconsider, change course, maybe even admit that something they were comfortable with was actually a problem. That's expensive. That costs effort, ego, and time. Mocking you was cheaper. Calling you dumb cost them nothing in that moment. It let them keep moving in the direction they were already going without having to think too hard about it. Imagine this. Somebody's driving down a road they've driven 100 times, and a passenger says, "I think there's something wrong up ahead. Maybe we should slow down." The driver doesn't check the road. The driver just laughs, says the passenger's imagining things, and keeps the same speed. Not because the passenger seemed unreliable, but because slowing down felt inconvenient. That's exactly what happened to you. They didn't dismiss your instinct because it seemed weak. They dismissed it because acting on it would have cost them something they weren't willing to give up yet. That's why the mockery was so quick, so confident, so dismissive. Real doubt sounds different. Real doubt asks questions. What they gave you wasn't doubt. It was defense. A reflex to protect their comfort from your clarity. And people only defend that hard when some part of them suspects you might actually be onto something. Calm people don't need to call the messenger dumb. Only people who are quietly unsettled by the message do that. You weren't asking them to panic. You were asking them to pause, and pausing was too much. So they picked the version of this story where you were the problem, instead of the version where the problem was real. It was easier to make you the punchline than to make the warning the priority. That's not a reflection of your judgment. That's a reflection of how uncomfortable the truth felt the moment it had a voice attached to it, yours. This shows up everywhere, not just in this one situation. In workplaces where someone raises a concern about a plan and gets called negative for it. In families where someone names a pattern nobody wants to look at. In friend groups where the one person asking careful questions gets labeled the difficult one. It's rarely about the accuracy of the warning. It's almost always about the inconvenience of stopping to check it. Once you see that pattern, you stop taking the mockery personally because you understand it was never really about you in the first place. Number 3. The disaster didn't make you right. It only revealed what was already true. There's a subtle mistake people make when they talk about moments like this, and it's worth correcting before we go any further. Here's something people misunderstand about this whole situation. The disaster isn't what proved you right. You were already right the moment you said it. The disaster just made it impossible for anyone else to keep pretending otherwise. Truth doesn't wait for permission to be true. It was true when you said it, in that quiet, calm voice they laughed off. It was true the next day. It was true every single day after that, whether or not anyone acknowledged it. The collapse didn't create the truth. It just forced the truth into a place people couldn't avoid it anymore. This matters because it changes how you should feel about this whole thing. You don't need the fallout to validate you. You already had the validation the moment you noticed what nobody else wanted to notice. The disaster is just loud proof for people who need loud proof, because quiet proof, a calm warning, spoken clearly, once or twice, was never going to be enough for people who'd already decided not to listen. Imagine this. A person stands in a quiet field and says, "There's a storm coming. I can feel the pressure changing." Everyone around them is enjoying the sun, so they wave it off. Then the sky turns, and the wind picks up, and the storm arrives exactly the way it was described. The storm doesn't make that person psychic. It doesn't make them special. It just makes visible what their attention had already picked up on long before anyone else bothered to look up. That's you. You weren't guessing at random. You were reading real signals, tone shifts, decisions that didn't add up, patterns repeating in ways that should have raised questions. You read the room correctly, while everyone else read the mood instead. And now that the storm has landed exactly where you said it would, the people who mocked you aren't just dealing with the disaster. They're dealing with the uncomfortable fact that the person they dismissed saw it coming, and they didn't. There's a quiet kind of peace in understanding this. You don't have to wait for a disaster to feel sure of what you saw. The disaster is just the part that got everyone else's attention. Your certainty was already settled the moment you said the words out loud, calmly, without needing anyone's agreement to make it true. That's the version of confidence that doesn't depend on being believed. It just depends on being accurate, and you already were. Number 4. Every joke they made about you is now a timestamp of their regret. Think about how confident they were when they mocked you. They weren't careful about it. They didn't whisper it behind your back and hope you never found out. They said it to your face, in front of other people sometimes, like it was obvious, like there was nothing to think twice about. That confidence is exactly what makes this moment land so hard for them now. It's one thing to quietly doubt someone and be wrong later. It's another thing entirely to loudly mock someone, on record, in front of witnesses, and then watch the thing you laughed at happen exactly the way they described it. Every joke, every eye roll, every "you're being dramatic" is now a timestamp, a permanent marker of the exact moment they chose comfort over caution. They can't undo that. They can minimize it. They can pretend it wasn't a big deal. They can try to rewrite how confidently they said it. But the people who were in the room remember. And more importantly, you remember. Not because you're keeping score for revenge, but because memory doesn't erase itself just because the person who mocked you would prefer it to. Imagine this. Someone stands in front of a group and confidently predicts rain will never come, while another person quietly packs an umbrella. When the storm hits and everyone is soaked except the one person who packed ahead, nobody needs to say a word. The umbrella says it for them. Your calm, your preparation, your refusal to panic, that's your umbrella. And right now, everyone who mocked you is standing in the rain, remembering exactly who told them to bring one. This isn't about making them feel small. It's about the simple, unavoidable truth that confidence without accuracy eventually collapses under its own weight. They were confident. They weren't accurate. And now, the gap between those two things is the exact shape of their regret. Confidence is loud by nature. It doesn't ask for evidence before it speaks. That's exactly why it travels faster than caution in a group setting. It's more entertaining, more decisive, easier to rally behind. But confidence without accuracy has an expiration date, and that date always arrives eventually. Yours didn't come with a countdown. It came with patience, with observation, with a willingness to sound less certain in the moment so you could actually be right later. That trade-off is finally paying off, exactly the way it always does for people who make it. Think about how much easier it would have been to just go along with the joke, to laugh with them instead of standing quietly on the other side of the room, holding a truth nobody wanted. That would have cost you nothing socially. It would have made you one of them for a moment. You didn't take that easier road, even when it meant being the target instead of part of the crowd. That choice is exactly why this outcome belongs to you and not to them. Number 5. The group that laughed together is dead silent tonight. There's a particular kind of quiet that settles over people after something like this happens, and it's different from ordinary silence. It's the silence of people who used to have plenty to say about you and suddenly don't. Think about it. The mockery wasn't a solo act. It had an audience. People nodded along. People added their own jokes on top of yours. It felt safe to pile on because you weren't fighting back. And mocking someone who doesn't fight back always feels like a free pass. It isn't. It just delays the bill. Now that bill has arrived, and the group that laughed together has gone quiet together. Nobody's bringing it up. Nobody's circling back to say, "Hey, remember when we said that?" Because bringing it up means admitting it, and admitting it means facing exactly how wrong they were and exactly how unnecessary the mockery was in the first place. It's easier to just stop talking about it and hope everyone forgets. They won't forget. You definitely won't forget. And the strange part is, you don't even need to remind them. Their silence is doing the reminding for them. Imagine this: a room full of people laughing at someone's warning, loud and confident, feeding off each other's certainty. Then the warning comes true, and one by one, they stop making eye contact. Nobody announces it. Nobody has to. The energy in the room just changes, the way it does right after somebody says something they can't take back. That's what's happening around you right now, chosen one, whether you're seeing it directly or hearing about it secondhand. Silence like that isn't peace. It's people quietly recalculating how confident they should have been. And every day that silence continues, it says the same thing louder than any apology could. They know. They know exactly what they got wrong, and they know exactly whose warning they laughed off to get there. You might feel the pull to fill that silence, to reach out, to smooth things over, to make everyone comfortable again, the way you've probably done before. You don't have to do that this time. Let the silence sit for as long as it needs to. It's not your job to manage how they process being wrong. Your job was to say the truth clearly when it mattered, and you already did that. What they do with the quiet afterward is entirely on them. Number 6. Why staying calm after being right unsettles them more than anger ever could. There's a reaction people are quietly waiting for right now, and you already know what it is. They're waiting to see if this changes you, if it makes you sharper, colder, harder to be around. It's almost a relief for them if it does, because it gives them something familiar to point to. Here's what they were bracing for, whether they'd admit it or not. They expected you to gloat. They expected the "I told you so." They expected some version of payback, loud enough to match the mockery they gave you a month ago. That's what they understand. That's the language they speak. If you came in swinging right now, some part of them would almost feel relieved, because at least that would be familiar. What they weren't prepared for is you staying exactly the way you were before any of this happened. Calm, steady, not performing your vindication for anyone. That calm is doing more damage to their ego than any outburst ever could. Anger gives people something to push back against. Anger gives them a role to play, the misunderstood one, the one who overreacted a little but had a point, the one who gets to defend themselves. Calm gives them nothing to fight. There's no argument to win against someone who isn't arguing. There's no way to make the moment about your tone when your tone hasn't changed at all. All that's left for them to sit with is the plain, uncomfortable fact of the outcome, with nothing distracting from it. Imagine this. Somebody braces for a storm and instead gets stillness. The kind of stillness that feels heavier than noise because it doesn't give them anywhere to put their guilt. That's what your calm is doing right now. It's not a performance. It's not a strategy you planned out in advance. It's simply who you already were before this started, and it happens to be the exact thing that makes this moment impossible for them to shrink down into something small and forgettable. You don't need to raise your voice. The outcome already said everything that needed saying. Your job now isn't to make sure they feel it. They already do. Your job is to keep being exactly who you were the whole time, because that consistency is the part they truly can't argue with. This isn't about freezing them out or refusing to talk to them again. It's about not performing forgiveness before you actually feel it, and not performing anger you don't actually carry either. Staying calm doesn't mean staying silent forever, and it doesn't mean building distance for its own sake. It means responding to this moment the same honest way you responded to the warning itself, without exaggeration, without theater, just steady and clear. Number 7. The people who dismissed your warning are the ones quietly asking for your read now. Notice the shift happening in real time. The same people who told you to relax, who said you were overthinking things, who made you feel small for raising a concern, are now the ones reaching out, asking what you think is going to happen next. Not loudly, not with an apology attached, just quietly. almost casually, as if the mockery a month ago never happened. What do you think about this part? Do you think this is going to get worse? Have you heard anything else? They're treating you like a source now, not a dramatic voice they laughed off. That shift is proof of something they'll never say directly. They trust your read more than they trust their own, and they always did. They just didn't want to admit it while things still felt fine. It's easy to trust your own judgment when nothing's testing it. The second things fall apart, people go looking for whoever saw it coming, because suddenly, accuracy matters more than comfort. And you were accurate, quietly, consistently, without needing anyone's approval to be right. Imagine this. A group ignores a lighthouse warning because the sea looks calm, then hits rough water and starts scanning the horizon for that exact same light. The lighthouse didn't move. It didn't change what it was signaling. The people just finally needed it. That's what's happening to you right now. You didn't change. Your read didn't get sharper overnight. They just finally reached the point where ignoring it stopped being an option. You don't owe anyone a play-by-play breakdown just because they're curious now. But it's worth noticing, quietly, for yourself, that the same voice they mocked is the same voice they're leaning on the second things get uncertain. That contrast tells you everything about who actually had clarity the whole time and who was just pretending not to need it. It's okay to help them now if you want to. Being right doesn't require you to become cold or unavailable. You can answer their questions, share what you're seeing, and still hold the plain memory of how they treated you a month ago. Those two things aren't in conflict. Generosity doesn't erase what happened, and it doesn't mean you've forgotten. It just means you're choosing to be useful on your own terms instead of on theirs. There's a version of you that could make them wait, drag it out, ration your answers, just to make them feel the discomfort a little longer. That would feel good for about a minute. But notice what you actually want here. Not to punish them for asking, just to be recognized for having been right. You already have that. Everything past this point is optional, and you get to decide how generous you want to be with it. Number 8. What they misunderstood about overreacting. They called it overreacting. That word did a lot of work for them because it let them dismiss your concern without ever actually examining it. Overreacting implies the reaction is bigger than the situation deserves. But you weren't reacting to nothing, you were reacting to specific things, patterns, decisions, warning signs that were sitting right there in plain view. Calling it overreacting wasn't an assessment of your accuracy, it was a way to avoid assessing it at all. Here's the twist they never expected. Underreacting is what actually happened, and it happened on their side, not yours. They underreacted to something that deserved attention. They underreacted to a pattern that was building for weeks. They underreacted to a calm, clear warning from someone who had no reason to make it up. Overreacting would have been panicking over nothing. What you did was the opposite. You noticed something real and stayed measured about it, which is exactly the kind of response that gets mistaken for drama by people who aren't used to paying that close attention themselves. Imagine this. A smoke detector goes off quietly, once, in a house full of people watching television. Somebody mutes it, annoyed by the interruption, calling it oversensitive. Later, the smell of smoke becomes impossible to ignore. Nobody says the detector overreacted then. They say it was right. That's the difference between reacting to noise and reacting to signal. You were reading signal the entire time, and they mistook it for noise because acknowledging it as signal would have meant they had to do something about it. You don't need to correct their language now. The outcome already corrected it for you. What used to be labeled overreacting is quietly being relabeled in their minds as something closer to instinct or insight, or the thing they should have taken seriously the first time you said it out loud. Watch how quickly the language around you starts to change once the outcome is undeniable. The same behavior gets a different label depending on whether it was right or wrong in hindsight. And that's worth remembering the next time someone tries to talk you out of trusting what you see. Labels like overreacting say more about the listener's comfort than about the accuracy of what's being said. You already knew that. Now everyone else is catching up. Number 9. The apology they can't quite bring themselves to type. Watch what happens in the days after something like this settles. There's a version of this where someone finally sends the message, "I shouldn't have said that. You were right. I'm sorry." It's a short message. It wouldn't cost them much to send, and yet it hasn't come, has it? Not because they don't know they owe it. They know exactly what they owe you. But because apologizing means fully admitting the size of what they got wrong. Out loud, in writing, where it can't be taken back or softened later. It's easier for people to shift their behavior quietly than to name what changed it. You'll notice it in small ways instead. A different tone when they talk to you now. More caution before they dismiss something you say. A hesitation that wasn't there a month ago. That's the apology showing up sideways, through action instead of words, because the words feel too heavy for them to actually type out. Imagine this. Someone stands in a doorway, phone in hand, typing and deleting the same sentence over and over. They know what needs to be said. They just can't make themselves hit send, because sending it means the version of themselves that mocked you has to officially exist on the record, permanently, in a way that can't be laughed off later, the way the original mockery could. You're allowed to notice this without chasing it. You don't need the apology to move forward. And honestly, waiting for it will only put your peace in someone else's hands. What matters is that you already know the truth, and so do they, whether or not they ever find the courage to type it out. Their silence on the apology says just as much as the words would have, sometimes more. If the apology does come eventually, meet it plainly. You don't need to make them grovel for it, and you don't need to pretend it didn't matter either. A simple, honest acknowledgement is enough to move forward with, if that's what you want. And if it never comes at all, that's survivable too. Closure was never something they were required to hand you. You already gave yourself the only closure that actually matters, the certainty that you were paying attention when it counted. Number 10. The pattern they're only now noticing about how you see things. Something else is starting to shift quietly around you, separate from this one situation. People are beginning to notice that this wasn't a fluke. They're starting to remember other moments, other times you flagged something calmly and it turned out to matter. Other times your read on a person or a situation ended up being the accurate one, even when nobody wanted to hear it at the time. One correct warning gets written off as luck. A pattern of them gets written off as something else entirely, judgment. This is the part that quietly unsettles people the most, more than the disaster itself. It's one thing to be wrong about a single moment. It's another thing to realize the person you dismissed has a track record you never bothered to notice, because you were too busy underestimating them to actually watch closely. Once that realization lands, people start rethinking everything, not just this one warning. They start wondering what else you saw that they brushed past. Imagine this. Someone finally goes back through old messages after a disaster, expecting to find one lucky guess, and instead finds 3, 4, 5 moments where the same calm voice flagged something correctly, long before anyone else caught on. That's not chance anymore. That's a pattern, and patterns are far harder to laugh off than a single warning, because patterns mean the mockery wasn't just wrong once. It was wrong as a habit. You don't need to point this pattern out yourself. Let it exist quietly in the background, doing its work. The people paying attention will notice it eventually, and when they do, the shift in how they treat your voice going forward will say more than any argument you could make about it now. There's real responsibility that comes with this kind of trust, and it's worth naming honestly. Being taken seriously isn't a license to speak up about everything, all the time, with total certainty. The reason your read holds weight now is because you were careful before, measured, specific, willing to be wrong. Keep that same discipline going forward. Accuracy earned this trust. Only accuracy keeps it. There's a quiet kind of leadership in that discipline, even if nobody in the group ever calls it that out loud. The people who last, who keep being trusted year after year, aren't the ones who predict everything. They're the ones who predict carefully, sparingly, and turn out to be right often enough that their calm becomes a kind of shorthand for reliability. That's the reputation being built right now. One accurate, measured warning at a time. Number 11. The quiet ones who believed you the whole time are finally stepping forward. Not everyone laughed. Somewhere in that group, there was at least one person who didn't join in. Someone who stayed quiet during the mockery, maybe even privately agreed with you, but didn't say it out loud, because disagreeing with the group felt riskier than staying silent. That person is starting to speak up now. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly correcting the record when your name comes up, saying things like, "Actually, they did try to warn everyone," or, "I remember them saying something about this weeks ago." That voice matters more than it seems. It's proof that you weren't as alone in that room as the mockery made it feel. Somebody saw it too. Somebody just didn't have the confidence to say it out loud while everyone else was laughing. And now that the outcome has made the truth undeniable, that same person no longer has to choose between being right and being liked. They can finally say what they actually thought the whole time. Imagine this. A crowd mocks someone's warning, loud and unified, while one person near the back stays silent, arms crossed, watching everything unfold exactly as predicted. Nobody notices that person during the mockery. Everyone notices them the moment they finally speak, because their silence during the noise gave their words weight the moment the noise stopped making sense. You don't need a chorus of support to know you were right, but it's worth noticing when the quiet ones start speaking, because it tells you something important. The mockery was never as unanimous as it felt in the moment. It just took a disaster to make it safe for the quiet ones to admit what they already believed. Give that person some grace too. Staying quiet during the mockery wasn't the same as joining in on it, even if it felt that way to you at the time. People navigate group pressure differently, and some of them simply weren't ready to stand apart from the crowd yet. What matters is that they're standing next to the truth now, and that's worth more going forward than relitigating exactly how long it took them to get there. Number 12. Why I told you so was never actually the point. You've earned the right to say it. That's not in question. The question is whether saying it actually gets you anything you don't already have. Look closely, and you'll notice the satisfaction people expect from those 4 words rarely matches the satisfaction they actually deliver. It's a quick hit, gone almost as fast as it arrives, and it tends to leave the other person more defensive than reflective, which means it teaches them nothing except how to avoid you next time. It would be easy right now to lean into the satisfaction of being right and let that become the whole story. Resist that pull for a second. "I told you so" feels good for about 5 minutes and accomplishes almost nothing after that. It doesn't undo the disaster. It doesn't rebuild what fell apart. It doesn't make the people who mocked you understand anything they weren't already forced to understand by the outcome itself. All it does is turn your accuracy into a weapon, and weapons make people defensive instead of reflective. The real point was never about winning the argument. It was about being someone whose word means something, whose warnings are worth taking seriously, whose calm read on a situation holds up under pressure. That reputation is worth more than any short-lived satisfaction of rubbing it in. People remember how you handled being right just as much as they remember that you were right in the first place. Handle it with grace, and your credibility grows even further. Handle it with gloating, and you give them an easy way to reframe the whole story around your reaction instead of their mistake. Imagine this. Two people are proven right about the same thing. One spends the next month reminding everyone loudly. The other simply keeps moving forward, calm, unbothered, letting the outcome speak for itself. Watch which one people trust more the next time something uncertain comes up. Trust doesn't attach itself to the loudest voice. It attaches itself to the steadiest one. You already won this. The moment the outcome matched your warning, the story was decided. Nothing you say now adds to that. What you do next, how calmly you carry it, how little you need anyone's apology to move forward, that's what actually builds on it. This is also the part where bitterness likes to sneak in, disguised as justice. Watch for it. There's a real difference between acknowledging what happened and letting it curdle into resentment that colors every interaction you have from here on. One keeps you clear-eyed, the other slowly turns you into someone who can't be told anything without hearing an old insult behind it. You didn't survive being mocked just to become someone who can't trust good intentions anymore. Keep the lesson, let go of the sting. Number 13. What happens the next time you speak up? This is the part that actually matters going forward. The next time you notice a pattern forming, the next time something feels off, and you say so out loud, this moment is going to change how it lands. The mockery that met you a month ago isn't going to be as easy to repeat. Somewhere in the back of their minds, the people who laughed are going to remember exactly how wrong that laugh turned out to be, and it's going to make them pause, even if just for a second, before dismissing you again. That pause is worth more than any apology. It means the next warning you give doesn't have to fight through the same wall of ridicule to be heard. It means your voice carries a little more weight in the room now, earned the hard way, through being right when it counted and staying calm when it would have been easy to gloat. That's not a small shift. That's the beginning of people actually listening before the disaster happens instead of after. Imagine this. Someone speaks up in a room and, instead of laughter, gets a beat of silence and a few uncertain glances toward each other. That silence is respect, even if nobody calls it that out loud. It's the sound of a room recalibrating how seriously to take you. You've earned that recalibration, not through demanding it, not through forcing it, but through being right about something they wished you weren't. Use that shift wisely. Keep speaking calmly. Keep naming what you actually see instead of softening it to make people comfortable. The version of you that got mocked a month ago just became the version of you people quietly trust the most, and that trust, once earned this way, tends to stick around. Just be careful not to let this moment turn into a habit of announcing every worry out loud, looking for that same reaction. Not every instinct needs an audience, and not every concern needs to be framed as a warning. The credibility you built here came from restraint as much as from accuracy. You didn't shout. You didn't repeat yourself endlessly. You said it plainly once or twice, and let it stand. That restraint is part of what made it land. Keep it. Picture the alternative version of you, the one who reacts to this moment by warning about everything from now on, loudly, constantly, desperate for the next chance to be right in front of an audience. That version burns through credibility fast because people stop being able to tell the real signal from the noise. The version of you that stays selective, that only speaks up when something genuinely doesn't sit right, is the version people will keep listening to for years, not just for this one moment. Number 14. The version of you standing here now. Take a moment and actually look at the distance between those 2 points, because it's easy to rush past it when you're the one living inside it. Look at where you are compared to a month ago. A month ago, you were the one being laughed at, called dumb, dismissed in front of other people for simply naming what you saw. Today, you're standing in the aftermath of exactly what you described. Calm, steady, without needing to remind anyone of anything, while the people who mocked you sit in the discomfort of having been wrong out loud. That's not a small shift. That's the entire dynamic of the room rearranging itself around one simple, undeniable fact. You saw it, and they didn't. This didn't happen because the universe owed you something. It happened because you paid attention when it was easier not to, and you said something when it was easier to stay quiet. That's a habit, not a coincidence. And habits like that tend to keep paying off long after this particular moment fades. The next disaster, the next pattern, the next quiet warning you give, it's going to land differently now, because this one already proved what your calm attention is actually worth. You don't need to carry any resentment forward from this. The people who mocked you already got their answer, whether or not they ever say it out loud. What you get to carry forward instead is something steadier, the confirmed knowledge that your read on things holds up, that your calm isn't weakness, and that being underestimated has never once stopped you from being right. That confidence doesn't need an audience to be real either. You don't need to post about it, prove it, or make sure everyone in that group chat fully understands the scope of what just happened. The people who need to know already know. The rest will catch up in their own time, or they won't, and either way it changes nothing about what you already carry forward from this. Number 15. Trusting yourself without shutting the world out. Here's the part worth sitting with as this chapter closes. Being right about this doesn't mean you now have to treat every future warning as gospel. And it definitely doesn't mean you should start seeing hidden motives in every person who ever doubts you again. That's the trap some people fall into after a moment like this. They mistake one accurate read for permanent superiority, and they start pulling away from anyone who questions them, treating every disagreement like a rerun of the mockery. That's not strength. That's a different kind of prison, and it's one you don't need to walk into. The real lesson here isn't trust nobody but yourself. It's simpler and more useful than that. It's pay attention, say what you see clearly, and let the outcome speak for itself. That's a skill you can keep using without becoming someone who assumes the worst about every person around them. Most people who doubted you weren't villains. They were just comfortable, and comfort makes people slow to listen. That's a very ordinary human flaw, not a conspiracy, and understanding the difference is what keeps this whole experience from turning into something that isolates you. Imagine this. Two people go through the exact same experience, mocked for a warning, proven right later. One comes out sharper, calmer, a little more discerning about who they lean on for big decisions, but still open, still connected, still willing to be wrong next time and learn from it. The other comes out guarded, suspicious of everyone, quietly convinced the whole world is against them, unable to accept a compliment without wondering what's behind it. Only one of those people actually grew from this. The other just got smaller and called it wisdom. You get to choose which one you become. The disaster already happened. The mockery already happened. None of that is undone by staying open to people going forward, and none of it is proven wiser by cutting everyone off. If anything, real confidence looks like staying warm, staying available, staying willing to be part of a group again, while simply trusting your own read a little more firmly than you did before. That's the actual upgrade here. Not isolation, not suspicion, just a steadier, quieter kind of self-trust that doesn't need anyone's permission to exist, and doesn't need anyone else's doubt to disappear either. Carry that forward, chosen one. Not the grudge, not the guardedness. Just the calm, earned knowledge that you see clearly, paired with enough openness to keep letting people back in when they've genuinely earned it. That combination is rarer than being right ever was. And it's the part of this story that will actually serve you long after everyone's forgotten the disaster itself. That's the real ending here, chosen one. Not revenge, not gloating, just proof, standing quietly in front of everyone who doubted you, that you were paying attention the whole time. So here's where we land. A month ago, they called you dumb for warning them. Today, they're living inside the exact thing you tried to help them avoid, quietly rereading every message they laughed off, quietly asking for your read on what comes next, quietly changing how they talk to you without ever quite explaining why. You don't need their apology to know what happened. You already know. And now, so does everyone else. And if there's one thing to carry out of this video and into whatever comes next, let it be this. You don't need to become hard, distant, or suspicious of everyone around you just because a few people were careless with your warning once. Stay the version of yourself that pays attention. Stay open enough to keep letting good people in. That's what actually makes this story worth telling. Not that you were right once, but that being right didn't change who you are underneath it. A month ago, you were calm and clear and underestimated. Tonight you're calm and clear and finally seen. That's the whole arc. No revenge required. If this hit exactly where it needed to, let me know. Drop a 77 in the comments so the next chosen one scrolling past this knows they're not the only one who's been mocked for seeing clearly. Like this video, subscribe if you're not already part of this, and share it with the one person in your life who's been dismissed for saying the thing everyone needed to hear. Thanks for being here, chosen one. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, and goodbye.